They say revenge is sweetest when it's cold. But what if revenge didn't roar? What if it came quietly, deliberately, reshaping everything in its path before anyone even noticed? For Caitlin Clark, that moment arrived not through headlines, not through press conferences, not through social media chaos. It came in silence, in control, in one bold decision that rattled the power structure of women's basketball. She walked away from over $1 million in just 8 weeks of play. Most athletes would have taken it without hesitation, but she didn't. This wasn't about money, it was about authority, timing, and rewriting the rules of a system that had long underestimated her. The ripple effects of that choice would soon shake the sport to its core. Every legendary downfall starts with a misread. Geno Auriemma's wasn't a lost game or a mid-rotation, it was deeper. It was decades of dominance breeding blind spots, a comfort and arrogance so total it stopped feeling like arrogance long before Caitlin Clark became a household name. Before arenas packed with fans, before record-breaking television ratings, before national awards and historical trophies, she was just a kid from Des Moines, Iowa, chasing a hoop dream. And like countless young players before her, that dream pointed to one place: UConn, a school defined by its legacy, a dynasty that produced icons like Diana Taurasi, Maya Moore, and Breanna Stewart. UConn was power, history, and dominance, but for Clark, it was also a door that quietly closed. Recruitment should have been simple. Caitlin Clark was a generational scorer with deep range and court vision beyond her years. On paper, the connection with UConn's Hall of Fame coach should have been automatic. But it never formed. Geno never called her. He never reached out to her parents. Interest came only through cursory contact with her AAU coach, a quick call here, a casual check-in there. In that silence, everything was said. She was not a priority. Later, when questioned about missing the country's most obvious recruit, Geno deflected, saying he had already committed early to Paige Bueckers. Then came the dismissive remark: if Clark wanted UConn, she should have called him herself. That wasn't just oversight, it was disrespect, the kind that hardens inside, fueling every future step she would take on the court. While Geno moved on without thought, Clark paid attention. She understood her place in his eyes. She didn't fit the UConn mold. She wasn't part of their plan, and she wasn't their chosen star. That early dismissal became the fork in the road. Caitlin Clark chose Iowa, a program without UConn's banners, without its aura, without decades of built-in dominance. But what Iowa offered was something UConn never could: a platform where she could run the show, make mistakes, and be trusted from day one. In her decision lay quiet defiance, a refusal to bend to a system that had overlooked her, a determination to build her own lane. Under head coach Lisa Blutter, Clark found empowerment. She wasn't one piece slotted into a system, she was the foundation. Iowa's program moved with her energy, not against it. Every practice, every game, every decision centered on her brilliance. From her freshman season, she averaged 26 points per game, immediately signaling her dominance. By her sophomore year, she led the nation in scoring, pulling Iowa into the national spotlight in ways unseen for decades. Possession by possession, record by record, Clark was changing the game. Meanwhile, Geno clung to legacy, guarding the narrative he had built over 40 years. But Clark was rewriting the rules entirely. Paragraph 6. Her junior season became historic. Caitlin Clark broke the NCAA Division I all-time scoring record, surpassing Kelsey Plum and rewriting the history books. Iowa's arenas sold out repeatedly, and national television audiences exploded. The 2023 NCAA Championship drew 9 million viewers. The 2024 rematch, 7 million. Networks restructured coverage to follow her, and women's basketball stopped being an afterthought. This was no accident. Clark did not stumble into stardom. She built it, leveraging every opportunity, every record, every moment to prove that authority no longer belonged to a single man or program. And yet, Geno could not let go. Each compliment was tethered with comparison, each mention of her brilliance softened with backhanded praise. Clark wasn't recognized as a generational talent. She was framed as casual, as a kid playing in a driveway. Any fan support was labeled ignorant. The very people filling arenas, buying jerseys, and elevating women's basketball were dismissed by the sport's supposed gatekeeper. But Caitlin didn't respond with words. She responded with action. Rookie of the Year. All-WNBA First Team. Fourth in MVP voting, exactly where fans had predicted. Every dismissal, every subtle insult, crumbled under the weight of her results. Then came the million-dollar offer. A new league, unrivaled, co-founded by Breanna Stewart and Napheesa Collier, with Gino deeply involved, needed a centerpiece. Clark was the only player who could legitimize it. The irony was thick. The same coach who never called her during recruitment, who belittled her supporters, who suggested her rise was overhyped, was now offering over $1 million for an 8-week season, hoping to attach himself to her star power. But Caitlin saw it clearly. It wasn't respect, it was desperation. A last-ditch effort to regain relevance. And she declined. Quiet. Clean. Final. Control rested entirely in her hands. By saying no, Clark wasn't just turning down a contract. She was rejecting validation from someone who had never believed in her. She didn't need his league, his system, or his approval. She had already built her own lane, reshaped attention, money, and influence in women's basketball. Young fans no longer dreamed in Yukon Blue, they wanted Clark's number. The balance of power had shifted, and the sport itself was being forced to adapt. Authority no longer resided in one man or one program. It belonged to those brave enough to claim it on their own terms. Caitlin Clark didn't yell. She didn't fight publicly. She didn't demand recognition. She quietly exercised control, timing, leverage, and independence, and in doing so, she permanently altered the landscape of her sport. Gatekeepers had been exposed, institutions were being challenged, and a generation of athletes was watching closely, learning that the game belongs to those willing to step forward and define it themselves. One calculated decision had reshaped decades of assumed authority, and the question remains, who else will rise, who will adapt, and who will be left behind? The next chapter is already in motion, and Clark's story shows exactly who holds the pen.